Welcome aboard, Explorers. My name's Claire and I am a Disney College Program Spring 2015 alumni. This video is a part of my Disney with Disabilities series where I talk about my experience as a cast member with disabilities. This video in particular is going to cover what it's like to visit the parks as a guest or a cast member on your day off. Now, if you visited the Walt Disney Resort in the past few years, you'll know that they've changed their entrance program from the turnstiles to the Magic Band system, which means everything is much more wheelchair accessible. After you get past those turnstiles, there's going to be an area where you can rent a wheelchair or an ECV. Now, I've rented many wheelchairs from those locations. The wheelchairs run about $15 if you are a guest, and if you're a cast member, you can present your blue ID and you will be able to rent one free of charge. Now, I've never rented an ECV, but I do know that you need to put down a security deposit to rent those. If you're going to be using a wheelchair for the entire duration of your trip, I would maybe recommend going to an outside dealer and renting a wheelchair from there. Although renting a wheelchair in Disney is quite cost effective and very convenient, they're not the most comfortable of wheelchairs. As someone who's used one for a long period of time, they're not super comfortable. I have to be honest with you. And that's nobody's fault. They've been used for, thousands and thousands of guests over the years. And also, they're definitely made for someone else to push you. So if your goal is to be independent and push yourself around the parks, that's not going to be your best option. Now, I use an ultra lightweight wheelchair when I'm in the parks. And I find that works best for me because I like to be independent and push myself around. However, if someone's going to be pushing you, that chair is going to work just fine for you. Now, again, if you are renting a Disney chair, there are going to be lots and lots and lots of people who are renting Disney wheelchairs as well. So that means when you go to transfer onto a ride for the rides that you have to transfer onto, you're going to leave your wheelchair with a bunch of other wheelchairs that look absolutely identical. So you want to make sure you can find your wheelchair. This also applies for ECVs and strollers. So you're going to want to be able to spot your wheelchair in this giant mass of tons and tons and tons of other wheelchairs that are exactly identical. So you might want to put a name tag on the back, which you can get when you rent your wheelchair or at the stroller rental location. Or you can do what me and my roommates did, is you can decorate your wheelchair. My roommates would sometimes get clip-on flowers and little bows and ribbons that we could attach to the back. But my favorite thing was something I did with my roommate Lorraine. We went to the Pirates of the Caribbean store and we got little flags. I had one for each side of the wheelchair and I'd put them on the front so it would be kind of like I was on my own little pirate ship as I was going around the parks. It was really cute. It was fun. Cast members have another way to interact with you that way, ahoy matey, that sort of thing. And it's just cute and it's an easy way to spot which wheelchair is yours. The holy grail of places to visit if you have a disability is guest relations. There's a guest relations office in each of the parks and it should be right as you come into the parks. At guest relations, they will give you all the accessibility information you need. They'll have maps and translators and anything you could possibly need for your stay. At guest relations is also where you can get an accessibility pass. If you're like me and you have trouble standing for long periods of time, Disney World can be tough. There are lots of lines and there's a lot of wait time. And sometimes standing in those lines can be really, really difficult, especially if you have ADHD, anxiety, or an autistic spectrum disorder, or fibromyalgia where you have a lot of overstimulation, and that can be extremely stressful. This also applies to mobility issues if you have trouble standing. So this access pass is basically kind of like a fast pass with people with disabilities. You're going to go up to your guest relations officer and they're technically not allowed to ask you for documentation of your illness. However, I do like to keep a letter on my phone just in case so I can prove that I do have a disability and this is something I need. So once they've talk to you about your disability and what your needs are, they'll take your picture and they'll print out a little form for you that'll have your name, the number of guests in your party, and the period of time that you'll be in the parks. Now, if you're a cast member, you can just tell them, well, I'm on the college program, I'm going to be here for so-and-so months, and they'll give you about 90 days, and you can just go and get that updated once those 90 days are out. How this accessibility pass works is it's sort of like a fast pass. When you want to go on a ride, for example, Peter Pan's flight, if the wait time for Peter Pan's flight is 60 minutes, you're going to go up to the cast member and you're going to show them your accessibility pass. They are going to fill out the time it is, let's say it's 2 o'clock, and they're going to add the wait time minus 10 minutes. So if the wait time for Peter Pan slide is 60 minutes and it's 2 o'clock, you're going to come back in 50 minutes at 2:50. So you can come back at that time and go straight through the fast pass line and onto the ride. So it really eliminates that waiting in lines. You still have to wait the allotted amount of time. However, you don't have to stand in lines. So if you do have overstimulation issues, you can go somewhere quiet and sit. Or if you have mobility issues and you need to be sitting for the majority of that time, or you need to take a break and get some water, you can do that during the wait time instead of having to stand in a line with lots and lots of people. Again, at Guest Relations, if you are hard of hearing or visually impaired, they can help you out there as well. For a $25 deposit, which you will get back at the end of your stay, you can get an assistive listening device or an assistive captioning device to help you on some of the attractions and the shows. For some of the shows, they have American Sign Language translators. They're only there certain days of the week and for certain shows at certain times. So if you go to Guest Relations, they can give you a program guide with when and where all of those interpreters are going to be. As I'm sure you know, Florida is really, really hot and humid, and it's super important to stay hydrated, especially if you're like me and you need to drink 3 liters or more of water a day. In Florida, the cost of a bottle of water is $2.50. The cost of a Smart Water is $4. So it gets pricey if you want to stay hydrated. However, my favorite trick is if you go up to a quick service or counter service restaurant, you can ask for a cup of water, and they will give you a cup of ice water free of charge. So I think that's a great way to stay hydrated. Some people don't prefer to do that because the water in Florida is kind of sulfury and some people just don't like that taste, and that's a-okay. Some of the parks, it's extremely important that you bring your own water bottle, especially if you're using a mobility device. For example, because of the conservation efforts in Animal Kingdom, they don't use lids in that park, which means if you want to get a cup of water, it's going to spill everywhere. So I would recommend bringing a water bottle so you can just fill that up with water. For some reason, I forgot to include this earlier, but if you have a service dog, you can go to Guest Relations and they'll give you a list of all the service animal relief areas in the parks so that your dog can use the bathroom. Alright, so that is an overarching guide of accessibility in the parks. I'm going to go more in depth on each park and the attractions and what's going to be best because some shows and parades have better accessibility seating than others, and some shows can have sensory processing issues with lights and that sort of thing. If you have a seizure disorder, some rides make you dizzier than others. So I'm going to go more in depth with that in each different park in different videos so that this video doesn't end up being like 3 hours long. Alrighty guys, thanks for watching, and if you want to leave a comment below in the dungeon with questions, comments, queries, and video ideas, I will do my best to get to those. Have a magical day, bye!